Some contactees say the ETs told them of a former planet in our solar system that blew up. Orfeo Angelucci wrote, "There was once a planet in the solar system of Earth, called Lucifer, named after one of the rulers of the planet. Its orbit lay between the orbits of Mars and Jupiter. That planet was the original home of Earthlings. They made war among themselves and finally turned against the great giver of life. Ultimately, they destroyed their own planet, which today exists only as a sterile and barren ring of asteroids and debris in the solar system." George Adamski wrote a similar story. "A planet in our system was once destroyed by the misapplied discovery of the fundamental power of the atom. Modern astronomy has calculated that there should be another planet, about the size of our own, between the orbits of Mars and Jupiter. Instead of a planet, however, there is a ring of cosmic dust, stones, and debris called the asteroid belt. If such a planet did exist and was suddenly destroyed, the repercussions on the rest of the solar system must have been catastrophic, particularly upon Mars and Jupiter. And the name of that broken planet is given as the name borne by Satan, Lucifer, before his fall from heaven." The Mitchell sisters wrote about the explosion of the planet. "The doom annihilated the seas of Mars that were turned boiling hot and dissipated in clouds of steam. Water became almost non-existent. All vegetation and animal life, as well as man, was no more. Much of the oxygen of the atmosphere was burned out. Mars became a place where nothing living could exist. The explosion of the planet Lucifer caused much damage in our system due to axis shifts of the planets in volcanic eruptions. Saturn developed her brilliant belt due to the explosion of Lucifer, for it threw one of her moons too close to the planet, and its destruction caused the tiny particles to begin an endless orbit around Saturn. Earth, too, was affected, for her moon was thrown further away. After Lucifer exploded, the souls that lived on Lucifer migrated to other planets, many coming to Earth. Orfeo Angelucci recounted meeting an ET that described life on one of the larger planetoids in the asteroid belt that remained from the shattered planet Lucifer. It is only a few hundred miles in diameter, hence the nearness of the horizon. The thunder, lightning, and constant play of color phenomena in the atmosphere are the result of magnetic disturbances because of the vicinity of other asteroids. The clouds you see above are not clouds as you know them upon Earth, but they serve to obscure the debris of our wrecked planet. Frank said that the ETs confirm that the current asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter is the remnants of a small planet that had been blown up by the warring civilization living there. When Frank asked when this occurred, the ETs would only say a very long time ago. The ETs told Frank that some of the beings that lived on that planet incarnated on Earth recently. One of those was named Joseph Stalin, who, when he had lived on the planet Lucifer, had been among those responsible for blowing up the planet. In an attempted repeat performance, Stalin authorized the 50-megaton H-bomb explosion in the Van Allen belt. As discussed in a previous chapter, the ETs claimed that the H-bomb would have created a fiery chain reaction in Earth's high atmosphere that would have devastated the Earth, much the same as happened to the planet Lucifer. It is always worth questioning ET stories, so let's explore the story of the destroyed planet. In the late 1800s, scientists accepted that a planet formed between Jupiter and Mars, and then later, broke up into millions of pieces that became today's asteroid belt. However, beginning in the 20th century, most scientists concluded that the asteroid belt is just leftover material from the formation of the solar system and never formed into a planet. If the asteroid belt is the remains of a shattered planet, it was quite small. If you could glue all the asteroids back together, the resulting object would only be about 870 miles wide, 1,400 kilometers, much smaller than Earth's moon and smaller than Pluto. But does size matter? Not really. A small number of people can live on a small planet. If the ET story is correct about Lucifer's destruction and its devastating effects on Mars, then it means that Mars was habitable in the past. This idea is in agreement with the latest discoveries by NASA's rovers that indicate Mars once had a denser, oxygen-rich atmosphere, along with surface oceans that have since evaporated into space. However, according to most scientists, surface oceans evaporated from Mars about 3.8 billion years ago. The ETs never gave a time frame for when Lucifer broke up, and so, it may have happened billions of years ago. On the other hand, 3.8 billion years is based on scientific calculations of how long it would take the Martian atmosphere to bleed off into space slowly. In other words, it is just an estimate. So, that date could be younger. In any event, if there once was an advanced civilization on Mars, evidence suggests it must have been there a very, very long time ago. But time really doesn't matter. The ETs say they are numerous billion-year-old civilizations within a few dozen light-years of Earth. Why not one on Mars? So, it appears that it is at least plausible that the asteroid belt was a planet and that Mars once had a breathable atmosphere, vast oceans, and could support life. However, that doesn't mean any of this actually happened. Scientists now say that it didn't happen, but once accepted that the ETs say that it did.